The man stood there in the rain, his jacket thin, his shoulders tired, holding a small paper cup with both hands like it might shatter. His eyes met David's for just a second, and in that second, David felt the weight of 1,000 unspoken stories. The words came out softly, almost apologetically. "Can you help me, sir?" David was already late. Late for work, late for life, late for everything since his wife passed away. He looked at his watch, then back at the stranger, and felt that familiar tug between responsibility and compassion. He didn't know it then, but that one small moment of kindness would circle back and change his life forever. Before the story continues, if you enjoy emotional, real-life stories that remind us of the power of kindness, take a moment to subscribe, like this video, and share your thoughts in the comments. This is Heartfelt Moments, and your support helps us keep these stories alive. David was a single father of 2 young kids, Emma and Noah. Mornings were chaos, burnt toast, missing socks, and rushed goodbyes at the school drop-off. He worked long hours as a delivery driver, doing his best to keep the lights on and smiles on his kids' faces. Some days, kindness felt like a luxury he couldn't afford. That morning, the rain had soaked through his shoes, and his phone buzzed with another reminder about an overdue bill. When the man asked for help, David felt frustration rise in his chest. Not at the man, but at life. He barely had enough for himself. Still, something about the man's voice stopped him. David reached into his pocket and pulled out a few crumpled bills. It wasn't much. He handed it over, then surprised himself by asking, "You hungry?" The man's eyes widened, and he nodded slowly. "Yes, sir." "Very." David ducked into the diner on the corner and ordered a hot breakfast. Eggs, toast, coffee. When he set the plate down, the man whispered, "Thank you," like the words carried real weight. They sat in silence for a moment. Then the man spoke. He said his name was Samuel. He'd fallen on hard times after medical bills wiped out his savings. 1 bad year turned into 5. People stopped seeing him as a person. David listened, nodding, not offering advice, just attention. Before leaving, David pressed his business card into Samuel's hand. "If you ever need a meal again, call me," he said. It felt strange, making a promise when his own life felt so uncertain. But it felt right. Months passed. Life didn't get easier. In fact, it got worse. David was in a serious accident when another driver ran a red light. The injuries kept him off work for weeks. Medical bills piled up. Then came the letter, he was being sued. The other driver claimed David was at fault. The court date loomed like a dark cloud. David lay awake at night, staring at the ceiling, wondering what would happen to his kids if he lost. He couldn't afford a good lawyer. He couldn't afford to lose. The day of the hearing, David stood in the courtroom, his hands shaking. He felt small in that room, surrounded by polished wood and quiet authority. When the judge entered, everyone stood. And then David froze. The judge looked familiar. As the judge took his seat and glanced over the room, his eyes landed on David, and widened, just slightly. Not enough for anyone else to notice. But enough for David to feel it. It was Samuel. The man from the rain. The man with the paper cup. Clean-shaven now, wearing a judge's robe, posture straight, eyes calm and focused. David's heart pounded. He felt dizzy. Samuel didn't smile. He didn't nod. He simply looked down at the case file and began the proceedings. The hearing was tense. David spoke honestly, his voice cracking as he explained his side. He talked about his kids, his job, the accident. He didn't beg. He didn't exaggerate. He just told the truth. The other side argued aggressively. David felt like he was drowning in legal words he barely understood. Finally, the judge called for a brief recess. When court resumed, Judge Samuel cleared his throat. His voice was steady, professional. He ruled in David's favor. Evidence showed the other driver was clearly at fault. The case was dismissed. Relief washed over David so suddenly he had to grip the table to steady himself. Tears blurred his vision. As people filed out, David stayed behind, unsure of what to do. Judge Samuel approached him quietly. "Mr. Carter," he said, softly now, no audience listening. "I remember you." David swallowed hard. "I didn't know," he whispered. "I swear, I didn't know who you were." Samuel nodded. "That's the point." He paused, then added, "That breakfast you bought me? That conversation? It came at a time when I was rebuilding my life. You treated me like a human being when I needed it most." David shook his head. "I just did what anyone should." Samuel smiled gently. "Not everyone does." He explained that years ago, after his illness, Samuel had taken a leave from the bench. Pride kept him silent. Strangers' kindness and cruelty taught him more about justice than any law book ever had. "Today's ruling," Samuel said, "was based on facts and law alone. But seeing you again reminded me why fairness matters. Kindness matters." They shook hands. A simple gesture. But it carried the weight of a shared moment that neither of them would ever forget. That night, David hugged his kids a little tighter. He told them, in simple words, that being kind can come back to you in ways you never expect. Life didn't magically become perfect. But something changed in David. He started paying attention more, to people, to moments, to chances to help. Sometimes it was $1. Sometimes it was a smile. Sometimes it was just listening. And somewhere out there, kindness kept moving, quietly, powerfully, from one life to another. Because you never know who you're helping. And you never know when a small act of kindness might one day stand between you and the moment that changes everything. If this story moved you, let it remind you that kindness is never wasted. Spread it freely. The world needs it more than ever.